Charting the heavens. Throughout the ages, different cultures have found patterns in the sky. They are usually the same grouping of stars, but may have different names. These patterns of stars are called constellations. There are 88 constellations that cover the entire sky, both in the northern and southern hemisphere. The stars that make up the different constellations have different magnitudes, or what we call brightness. The Greek alphabet is used to signify the brightness of a star in a constellation. For instance, Betelgeuse appears to be the brightest star in the constellation Orion, as shown to the right. We call Betelgeuse Alpha Orionis. The next brightest star would be Beta Orionis, and so on. The constellations can be placed on a sphere with the Earth at the center. We call this the celestial sphere. The ecliptic is the path that the sun takes in the sky. The celestial equator is perpendicular to the celestial sphere's poles. The north celestial pole and the south celestial pole are aligned with the north and south pole of the Earth, as shown in the diagram. Polaris, the North Star, sits on the celestial sphere at the north celestial pole. As you can see in the drawing, the poles extend above the sphere and Polaris sits on the sphere at the north celestial pole. When the sun is at its highest point on the ecliptic, we call this the summer solstice. If the sun is at the lowest point on the ecliptic, we call this the winter solstice. The summer solstice occurs on June 21st and is, in the northern hemisphere, the day with the longest amount of daylight. The winter solstice occurs on December 21st and is the day with the least amount of daylight. On the celestial sphere, you will see 2 points in which the ecliptic crosses the celestial equator. These are called the equinoxes. The vernal equinox occurs in the spring on March 21st, and the autumnal equinox occurs in the fall on September 21st. The constellations that fall on the ecliptic are called the signs of the zodiac. Not all constellations that fall on the ecliptic are recognized as signs of the zodiac. There are actually 13 constellations on the ecliptic. The 13th constellation is called Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus falls between Sagittarius and Scorpius. As you can see from the chart on the right, your zodiac sign may not actually be the correct zodiac sign for you. The shifting of the sky over the centuries has actually caused those constellations to be out of order, or at least off by about a month. Go ahead and take a look at the chart and see if you can figure out which constellation you now are born under. As the Earth spins, we call this precession. As you can see, it looks like a spinning top. The top spins so fast we really can't see one rotation, but what we do see is that the top seems to have a slower spin and eventually falls. This is called the precession. Precession is the slow change in the direction of the Earth's rotation axis, or any object for that matter, due to its spin. The Earth is actually a very precise natural top. Precession is also what has caused the zodiac constellations to shift over the centuries. The North Star will actually change over time and has already done so since the past. In 3000 BCE, Thuban was the North Star. Currently, it is Polaris. In 14,000 CE, the North Star will be Vega, which is in the constellation Lyra. The constellations that are seen all night long are called circumpolar constellations. These constellations are close to the North Star and never rise or set. The further north you go, the more circumpolar constellations there will be. So how can we find constellations and stars on the celestial sphere? We use coordinates just like on Earth, except instead of calling them latitude and longitude, we use right ascension and declination. Right ascension is measured in hours, minutes, and seconds. The Earth rotates once in 24 hours, which is also equal to 360 degrees. Declination is measured in degrees from the equator. Notice for declination, we use the same symbol for feet to signify minutes of arc. Minutes of arc will be different than minutes of right ascension. Right ascension is related to the time it takes to rotate through the 360 degrees, where the declination is measured in degrees and parts of a degree. As you can see to the right, you are given the right ascension and declination of the sun's coordinates. Here we can see the lines of right ascension and the lines of declination. Notice the right ascension starts at the vernal equinox and ends at the same place 24 hours later. The declination is measured up from the equator 90 degrees and down from the equator negative 90 degrees. Also, because the Earth rotates around the whole sphere once in 24 hours, that means that each hour of right ascension is equal to 15 degrees. The tilt of the Earth is 23.5 degrees. This is what causes the sunlight to change throughout the year. This is the cause of the seasons. Some people think that the elliptical orbit, which we will talk about later, is what causes the seasons. There is not a significant difference due to that. For instance, the Earth is actually closest to the Sun in January, when the northern hemisphere has winter. The Earth is farthest from the Sun in July, which is summertime.